What's up, everybody? Riding season's coming to a close, man. So I'm trying to get my reps in. So we're going for a quick ride today. A little chilly, man, but it's like perfect. Honestly, it's like I love this for riding. It's like I don't know, like probably 70 degrees right now, dude. It's so nice. I can wear gear comfortably. Got a topic for today's video. You know, I usually just kind of wing it. At least with my previous videos, I've been just talking or whatever, but figured I'd maybe give you guys something to click on, you know, so it's a little bit informational. So I'm basically going to talk about, you know, super sports versus hyper nakeds. That's pretty much it. I mean, just kind of my experience with super sports versus, you know, this type of bike, like an upright seating position. Just kind of going over the pros and cons, I guess, versus the super sport. I guess I'll start with the which way am I gonna go? Let's go this way. Actually, no, you know what? I want to go this way. I think I didn't turn too late. Let me straighten out here a little bit in this guy's trailer. Obviously, you know, with super sports and these types of bikes, they're not really made for the street, right? They're made for the track. You know, so when you come out here on the street, you know, obviously it's fun regardless. But it's, you know, you want to buy a bike that's more suitable for your riding style, or, you know, what type of riding you're going to be doing. So whatever your, you know, whatever your riding style is, that's kind of how I base it. Obviously, when you get a bike, you can't test drive it, right? So you have no idea what it's like. This video is going to be geared more towards people that are looking for a bike, I guess. You know, what type of bike you guys are looking for. Obviously, you know, you're younger, you're going to be wanting probably a super sport or some type of sporty bike. Not like a Harley, you know, it's usually not the first choice for new riders or younger riders. You know, they want something cool, they want something sporty, they want something loud and fast, and it's cheaper. You know, super sports are a lot cheaper. So yeah, so obviously, you know, you're going to be looking for, you know, say you want to look for a super sport, you're looking for an R6 or a 636 or your first 600, I guess. You know, obviously those are going to be the best looking. You know, an R6, for example, is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best looking bikes ever made. Obviously you might think differently, you know, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder or whatever. So say you want an R6, you go out and buy it, and you love it, man. It's a great bike. It's super fun, you know, super nimble, very light. It's got plenty of power for the street. But then you realize how uncomfortable it is, which I guess brings me to the cons. But so, you know, for me, super sports are fine. They're not bad. They're tolerable for rides up to, like, I would say, like, by an hour, dude. Like, by the time you hit an hour, you know, your back's hurting, your neck's hurting, your ass is hurting because the seat's usually like nothing. It's a little, like, you know, a little piece of cardboard. You know, it stinks. And I've tried, when I had my R6, like, I went on long rides. Like, I think the longest ride I ever did was like 2.5 or 3 hours. Like, you know, in one shot. And it's tough, man. Like, and I've tried everything. I bought a Corbin seat. I bought, you know, clip-on risers to make the, you know, the seating position a little bit better. I did all of that, you know, and the bike was still awesome, man. It was super fun. I had a straight pipe, so it was incredibly loud, like annoyingly loud. You know, so my ears were constantly ringing on long rides, you know, and I usually don't wear earplugs because I kind of like to hear what's around me. In terms of cars and stuff, I know it's kind of ridiculous to say, but I feel more comfortable without earplugs. So yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, like, being comfortable on a bike ends up being a lot more of a priority when you ride a lot. But I mean, if you're just doing short rides, like, you know, under an hour, you know, just around the neighborhood or just riding to the gym or whatever, yeah, it's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. If that's what you're doing, that's fine. I guess that bike would be suitable. And then you could take it to the track if you ever take it to the track, which is fun. So you always got that. The R6 didn't have a gas gauge. I know some bikes do, so that kind of sucked. But that, I mean, honestly, dude, that's it. Like, it's really the looks. That's like the biggest pro, like the looks and the nimbleness of it. But, you know, now I have my comparison bike, and I'm using my bike as an example. And obviously, you know, before I forget, you got, you know, your 1000 class CC Super Sports, and it's basically the same thing, if not worse. The good thing is you have a longer power band, so you could at least stay in a lower gear for like riding around neighborhoods and stuff. And you get, you know, you get more down low torque, like, you know, stoplight to stoplight, instead of having to stay in like a super low gear at a super high RPM to get any type of power on a 600. But yeah, so now I guess I could talk about my bike as an example. When I switched over to the MT10, it's a pretty big difference. For street use, it's a million times better than my R6 was. And you know, I've had this bike for a decent amount of time now. I put about 6,000 miles on it. I've done long rides on it. I've done like 4 or 5 hour rides on it, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, I stopped still. Obviously, you stop to get gas constantly because this bike has a pretty terrible gas mileage. You know, but it was tolerable. Like, I was able to ride for a long time without being in immense amounts of pain and being in that like leaned over position constantly. Like, I'm sitting completely upright. I know it's kind of hard to tell from the video. My back is completely straight right now, and I can ride like this. I have cruise control, which is another huge bonus to having a bike like this, as opposed to you know, a super sport. I have more power than my R6. You know, I could smoke any 600 for the most part. The top speed's about the same. I think it's about like 165. I think that's what the top speed is when it's unrestricted, which is plenty. Like, you're not, unless you're doing like ridiculous highway runs with other sport bikes, you're not gonna go that fast. Like, you're just not. Like, I'm going stoplight to stoplight. I'm in a residential area. You know, it's just not gonna be, I'm not gonna be doing like that type of speed out here. It just doesn't make any sense. And the best part about this too is it's all low end torque. If you're looking to get a bike, if you're looking to get maybe I would think this would be more of like your second purchase. You know, cause I wouldn't get a 1000 as your first bike, or even a 600. It's doable for sure. You know, I think you could learn and you could grow into a 600, but the problem is there's just more room for error. You know, it's not as forgiving if you make a mistake, and you're gonna make mistakes in the beginning. You know, it's just gonna happen. That's part of the learning process. Like this bike, for example, it's very touchy. Like, if you whiskey throttle, or you know, you're taking a corner too hard, you know, you're going a lot faster than you think, it could put you in a bad situation. Another thing is I have a quick shifter up. I know the new MT10s have auto blip down, which is sweet. I don't mind downshifting. It's kind of like second nature, so it really doesn't bother me. I guess on the track it would be fine, but for riding around regular streets, it's not that big of a deal. My seat, that's the other thing. You got grass clippings! Watch out! Watch out for them grass clippings! I did upgrade this seat. I got the the Yamaha Comfort seat, which the old seat wasn't bad, but it's that, like, if any of you have ridden a Yamaha before, you know they all pretty much have the same seat, which is like a piece of thin cardboard with some padding on top, like barely any. It's pretty horrible. The seat wasn't terrible on this. It was a little more padding than I had on the R6. But I got the comfort seat, and this thing is amazing, man. And it looks better. It's got real nice stitching. It's got the embroidered MT logo on there. Like, it's just really nice. It sounds fantastic. It's a cross plane, so it sounds really good. It's the same motor that's in the R1. You know, and there's a lot of other bikes too that are upright. You know, even for starter bikes like the MT07, the MT09, those are great bikes, man. I've heard nothing but good things about people that own them. And you know, other brands make good bikes too. Like I've driven the Ducati Street Fighter, the V4S. That bike's incredible. A little bit more lean forward. It's a little more aggressive for a naked bike or a hyper naked. But still an awesome bike, man, and it was fast. Like, that bike is fast. A lot faster than this one. My biggest pet peeve on this bike obviously is the fuel consumption, but that's just because it's a 1000, but it's also made for the street, or for the track, I'm sorry. So, you know, this bike isn't really made for a long touring type of ride. I guess you could consider it a sport touring bike, but you gotta get gas a lot. Like, I could go through a tank of gas in a day easily. And even though it's got like an eco mode, whatever that is, it's not very economically friendly. My biggest pet peeve, other than that, is the amount of wind that hits you on a naked bike. Because of the lack of fairings, you're getting hit by a little bit more wind in your chest area. You know, if I was tucked down like this with a bunch of fairings, like how you would be on a, you know, a super sport, it's a lot less wind. It creates a bubble over you, especially on the highway. Like, highway riding on this thing is pretty terrible. And I even have a touring windscreen, and it just gives me buffeting in my helmet, so it didn't really help all that much. So, and then other than that, I mean, even your feet positioning isn't that bad. It's a little aggressive. It's not nearly as bad as an R6 or an R1 or any other super sport for that matter. It's pretty comfortable. You know, my knees are up a little bit higher. I'm not a big guy, but I'm like, you know, I'm just under 6 foot. I'm like 200 pounds. And I feel very comfortable on this bike. On my R6, man, I felt like I felt like a giant on that bike. That's another thing you have to consider, is your size. You know, if you're a smaller guy, or you have a smaller frame, it might be a little bit more comfortable for your legs, but you're going to be stretching a little bit further for your arms. So you're going to be a little bit, you know, a little bit more lean forward, which is going to hurt your neck and your lower back in the long run. It's just crazy though. Looks wise, I think this bike looks good. A lot of people do not. A lot of people would say obviously like a 600 or an R1 is way better looking than this bike, for example. It's got a weird look to it, and I would agree with that. It's definitely unique. I mean, it looks like you know, that robot transformer type of look that you get from like all the MT line bikes. Try to get around this rock chuck. Yeah, when you get up to like highway speeds, man, this thing is windy. You know, the other thing is too with your positioning, your seat positioning, a lot of people don't really understand until they get on a bike. Like, being able to shoulder check, you know, and with an upright position is a lot easier on this bike than it was when you're, you know, when you're more lean forward. ready? Cruise control. So I could rest my arms as long as I want, and I can set the speed right here. It is a little bit hard to keep your balance when it's windy, but, or not balance, I should say, like, keep yourself in whatever lane positioning you want. Like right now I'm getting pushed to the right a little bit, but it's not bad. I could ride like this for, you know, as long as I want, if I am on a straight road. But I don't know, hopefully you guys can see what I'm kind of talking about. Like, I could ride this bike all day long with no issues, and it's very comfortable. But like I said, if you're doing highway riding, it is a little bit harder. But you know, I don't think most of you aren't going to be looking for a sport bike for a long touring and long distance. You're going to probably just want like a Harley or something, you know, or even like an adventure bike. Adventure bikes are extremely comfortable. Yeah, I mean, also, you know, just do your research, you know, watch a ton of videos. It sucks that you can't. It would be nice if you could, you know, test drive bikes, man, but just not the way it works. You know, you just can't. I bought my R6 not having no clue what it was like. It was brand new. Never even ridden a 600 before that. That was my first one. I've gotten air on this jump before. Look at this. So if I go fast enough, I can probably clear that. But yeah, do your research, man. You know, if you got friends that have bikes that you could test drive, do it. You know, instead of going to just drop a bunch of money on a bike that you don't know nothing about, it helps. I did sell my R6. I made money, so that they hold their value. Certain bikes hold their value pretty well in the used market. Yeah, I just think about some of the long rides I did on my R6, and I would literally just be trying to move my butt in different spots on the seat just to stay comfortable. You know, not having no idea what it's like to ride a bike like this, you know, something that's like upright. Like, that seating position is so important for any rides over an hour, man. But I don't know, man. I know people that have ridden super sports cross country, you know, and it's definitely doable, but it's not that fun. Like, it's just hard to enjoy. Man, the cops are out today, man. It's the second person I've seen get pulled over. The other thing, man, like, you can't, like, you could speed, but you got to be careful. Like, you get your license taken away. You know, you get your bike impounded. And I know some of you guys be like, oh, I'm not stopping. But I think that's not very smart, especially if you're in your own neighborhood. You know, you're kind of screwed. You're just doing normal riding, which most people are gonna do. So, you know, you gotta think about all those factors involved too. You definitely don't want to get a bike to impress other people either. You know, you get a bike for your enjoyment, like what you want to do, you know. I got enough power to get away from traffic if I want. Like these are things you don't really think about when you're getting a bike, like, until you start riding, you start realizing like what it's like. You know, half the time you just want power to get away from people, you know, for safety. And most bikes have enough power, like even 250s are a lot faster than regular traffic, you know. Alright, but that pretty much concludes the video. I'm gonna vibe out for the rest of the ride, but thanks for tuning in if you guys stayed this long. Alright, later everybody.